This is Copenhagen, and this is where they plan to build a new artificial island called Unethical. This island will be hosting a fully functional urban district with 35,000 new homes together with a substantial coastal area, conceived to alleviate the pressure of Copenhagen's rapidly overheating housing market and to act as a natural barrier to the potentially catastrophic rising sea levels. Unethical is the latest and quite arguably the grandest act in the centuries-long quest of the Danish capital for new land to accommodate its needs and to act as a springboard for its sustainable development. But of course, not without a fair bit of controversy. Something we'll get more into a bit later, but I can reveal that some of it is due to their excruciatingly long-term horizons. I mean, this island will apparently take 50 years to come to life, as they have set the completion date to 2070, which is pretty far into the future, I'd say. Now, while not quite as experienced as the Dutch, the Danes are far from new arrivals in the land reclamation industry, which makes these timelines rather humorous. You see, Copenhagen has changed a lot over the past few centuries, as just 600 years ago it looked like this. And in the 400 years that followed, through multiple reclamation projects, the coastline changed from this to this and then this. Getting into the 20th century, the needs and consequently the pace and magnitude of the reclamation projects reached new highs, with the coastline changing into its present-day form. Now, while the quest for new land to build on is an enduring one for Copenhagen, the intended use of this new land is subject to changes, reflecting the shifting priorities and needs of society. What that means is that within this long span of time, the reclaimed land has been used for many different things, from pasture and military exercises to hosting industrial and transportation infrastructure. Just take a look at this part of the city, Kalvebodbrygge, a former meatpacking district, reclaimed in the 18th and 19th centuries, that now hosts modern office buildings and hotels after a huge redevelopment plan in the 90s. Or this area, Papirøen, located on the trendy district of Christianshavn, a man-made island from the 17th century, formerly an industrial site barred from public eyes that is now under development to turn it into a vibrant public space with new housing. The point is that Copenhagen has been at this game for a long time and knows how to play it. Unethical is the latest installation of this game, and is different, not just in terms of the sheer scale of the project, but also in terms of the magnitude of the problems it seeks to address: a housing crisis and the threat of rising waters. Okay, so let's unpack this and start with the housing crisis. See, Copenhagen is by many metrics the most livable city in the world, and one of the most prosperous at that. It attracts and will most likely keep attracting people from every corner of the globe, as well as people from other parts of the country. Consequently, its population growth is substantial, and according to this 2019 municipality plan, the city is expected to add 100,000 more people between 2019 and 2031. Now, for a city with a current population of around 600,000, that's a huge increase, and accordingly, this surge in population leads to excess demand for houses. This 2018 report estimated the excess demand to be around 4,000 homes, with the housing needs not expected to diminish in the near future if housing construction keeps growing at the same unchanged pace. This situation leads to huge price pressures, which eventually translate into higher house prices. Now, you might say, almost every major city in the world faces the problem of outlandish house prices in its center. Which is true, but there is a difference, and that is that the policymakers of Copenhagen don't want this to happen. So in 2018 they conceived of the pharaonic plan of Unethical. You see, in line with the city's ambition for promoting social inclusivity, the plan is for the island to accommodate 35,000 new households, out of which 25% will be reserved as affordable housing. This combination of a huge increase in available housing and a smaller but still significant increase in the supply of affordable houses should in the very long term contribute to the de-escalation of the housing crisis, at least on paper. And I promise we'll get back to this. But I think it's time we discuss the second problem this project seeks to solve: the rising sea levels. You see, Copenhagen is a coastal city surrounded by the sea to the east, and like many other coastal cities around the world, it is also at the risk of flooding due to the rising sea levels. According to this highly cited paper from 2009, Copenhagen remains mostly protected from extensive coastal flooding, but it is still vulnerable to smaller scale floods induced by an extraordinary storm surge. So, per this paper, in the absence of any adaptation and long-term planning, and depending on the mean sea level rise in the future, future, a 100-year storm surge event could cause anything from a 3 billion to an 8 billion euro damage. And Unethical has been specifically conceived and designed to mitigate this risk. Now, the idea of using artificial islands as a protective layer is by no means a new idea and has already been implemented in other parts of the world. And in line with this philosophy, Unethical features a strategically designed coastal area that should act as a buffer to protect the urban area of the island and the vulnerable areas of the mainland from any imminent seawater rises. Now, Unethical wouldn't be a proper grand-scale project if it didn't attract its fair share of controversy. And it has attracted a lot. While the project has been met with unanimous political support, the public has a different opinion. And the bulk of the criticism it is attracting comes from environmental groups. You see, the foundations of the island are expected to be in place by around 2035, and from there on, construction will continue for many years to come. And for this to happen, a lot of soil is needed. Like 80 million tons of soil. So, per the environmental report of the project, given that construction will be going on for around 30 years, this implies that 2.6 million tons of soil need to be transferred on a yearly basis, which in turn translates to 350 trucks carrying soil going back and forth in the city on a daily basis for 30 years straight. Honestly, there are so many things wrong with this that I don't even know where to start. But that's not the only problem. There are serious concerns that the prolonged construction site in the sea would contaminate the water and severely disrupt the already vulnerable ecosystem of the Baltic Sea. To add to this, there is also the threat of destruction of the landscape on a semi-permanent basis due to the almost indefinite installation of machinery and equipment for the construction of the island. The point is that while the project is supposed to provide protection from an imminent environmental catastrophe, it might as well create another one in the process of doing so. And the criticisms don't stop at the environmental impacts of the project. The fact that the construction laws for the project and the consultations about them were hurriedly passed before Copenhagen's November 2021 municipal elections, which, by the way, is the primary platform on which a project of such scale gets implemented. And so, this has prompted opposition parties and activists to raise concerns about a lackluster democratic process without a real public debate, nor the citizens' voices having been properly taken into account. Others voice concerns that the project might not even be able to serve its intended purposes. Accordingly, there are allegations that its planning is inadequate to provide the intended protection from the storm surges. And then there's the obvious question of the affordability of the dwellings, one of the very first concerns raised when the project was unveiled to the public in 2018. See, with a development cost estimated to range from 2.6 to 5.4 billion euros, and given that the houses will be located next to the ocean, their prices could very well skyrocket if they are sold at their market value. This would render the houses of the project de facto exclusive and available only to an affluent elite, therefore defeating their own purpose. The assurance of the project's planners that 20 to 25% of the houses will be reserved for affordable housing don't do much to remedy the problem, given that those affordable houses will be subsidized through the revenues from selling the 75% of the exclusive private real estate, likely making the expensive houses the building priority of the project and pushing the affordable housing plan further into the already excruciatingly long horizon. And the list of criticisms goes on and on. So to wrap it up, Unethical is a rare project, grand in its scale and ambitious. But viewed from another angle, it merely represents the latest manifestation of one city's constant battle to resolve the tension between developing sustainably while meeting the challenges of our era and finding new land to serve its needs. And as this process is arguably still in its infancy, mistakes are bound to be made and lessons are bound to be learned. Now, whether the project will be a crowning achievement or a catastrophic failure, only time will tell, but one thing is for certain: other cities will soon have to make their own choices on how to meet the great challenges of our day. And Copenhagen, rightfully or wrongfully, full of mistakes or with a clear-cut vision of the future, is once again paving the way forward. But that's it for this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. I've noticed that a lot of my viewers seem to forget to subscribe, so if you like my videos, it's a surefire way to make sure you don't miss any in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.